ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनच्छलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी परिचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य मुखम करोति वाचालं भंगेति गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्येश्वरम्। हरि ओम तत्सत्। हरे कृष्ण। So we are discussing today chapter 23 of the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavad. This chapter is entitled Devahuti's Lamentation. So you may be wondering, oh, they just got married, why she's lamenting? That's the interesting thing. That's the discussion of chapter. As you may be aware, we have reached the point where Swayambhuva Manu very happily and in a very pleading manner offers the hand of his very qualified daughter Devahuti, the hand of the great sage Kardama Muni. Lord Vishnu himself had told Kardama Muni that this is the arrangement of the Lord himself for the good of all living entities and that he should accept. And Kardama Muni, even though he is very detached and very spiritually elevated, he accepts that arrangement and he accepts that seva to be performed for the Lord. So with great pomp, the marriage of Kardama and Devahuti is performed. We discussed this in the last chapter. And we also discussed how after the wonderful marriage ceremony, so many wonderful gifts which were given by Shatarupa to her daughter, then how they went back to Barhishmati, their capital. And this very qualified, beautiful, gentle, saintly Devahuti stayed back with Kardam Muni in his ashram after the departure of her parents and continued to serve her great husband, Kardam Muni, very, very wonderfully. It is said that she served him in such a way that she perfectly understood what were the desires of her husband. And she served him exactly like that. And also with great love and attention. See, service to be pleasing must be done with certain characteristics. It must be done, obviously, one, in a way that is actually according to the needs and the desires of the person who is being served. Yes, that is very important. Sometimes a servant, of course, I'm using the word servant in a generic sense. Obviously, she's his wife and not a servant in the ordinary sense of the term. But I'm making a broader point, so I'm using the term servant here, because here we are talking about servant in reference to servant of the Lord, servant of the Guru, servant of the devotees. So I'm using the term servant in a broader context, because Devahuti not just saw her husband as her husband, but he was also like the Guru, isn't it? Such a very spiritually elevated personality. So when one serves, one should serve in such a way that the object of the service is pleased, which means that the object of service, one knows what is the desire in the heart of the person being served, and one serves them exactly like that. So some people, they become over enthusiastic to serve. For example, if the Guru says, I want water, please give me some water to drink. Sometimes the disciple may become over smart and say, oh, let me make badam milk and give to my Guru. He'll be so pleased. So he takes badam milk. But the Guru says, no, I wanted water. I'm thirsty and I want water. So sometimes we may want to serve, but we may not actually understand the heart and the actual need of the person who is being served. So an expert servant, the scriptures say, there's a third class servant, second class servant, and a first class servant. The third class servant, when you ask for milk, he will give you water. When you ask for water, he'll give you milk. The second class servant is, when you ask for water, he gives you water only, that much. When you ask for milk, he'll give you milk. Just exactly what you say, he will do exactly do that. That's also good. But he will follow the instructions ditto, exactly. But a first class servant is he who knows exactly the mind of his master and serves perfectly accordingly. Sometimes, even when the master has not even explicitly said what he wants, he just understands, oh, this is what he will want now. This is what I should do now. And he perfectly satisfies the object of service. And the example of this kind of a service in the context of a husband-wife relationship is mentioned here in the first verse. She served her husband exactly like Bhavani, the wife of Lord Shiva, serves her husband. Bhavani, Parvati Devi, is the topmost example in the material world of a chaste and dutiful wife. Of course, in the spiritual world, it is Lakshmi Devi, Radharani, Rukmini ji, all these manifestations of the goddesses of fortune. But in the material world, where the Supreme Lord and his consort manifest as Shiva and Parvati, Parvati ji or Bhavani is the ideal example of a chaste wife. Sati, very chaste. Of course, Sati Devi eventually becomes Parvati in her next birth, but they are the same personality. So it is said Devahuti served Kardam Muni perfectly. Vishrambhena Gauravena. Vishrambhena means with great intimacy. Intimately, but not being familiar. Gauravena. Gauravena means maintaining proper respect. This is often a very challenging situation. To be intimate, at the same time, not become so familiar that contempt breeds in. This is very interesting. That's why it is said one should not become too close to the Guru or too close to one's superiors. Why? Because if you become too close, familiarity may come. And familiarity, as they say, breeds contempt and one may commit offenses. Devahuti was so perfect in her service, even though she was intimate, being the wife. But at the same time, knowing her husband's great exalted position, she served him with great respect, keeping her own senses in control. never getting angry, never disturbing him, always supporting him in the execution of his spiritual duties with love and with sweet words. Actually, this particular chapter is full of lot of wisdom for those ladies who want to make their husbands happy. So we can have a full marriage counseling class based on this chapter, chapter 23. But because of lack of time, we will not go into that. But I hope those who are interested in this subject matter can, pick up some of these points and read the chapter and purport in great detail, and there'll be a lot of points. So Devahuti kept her own. She controlled her senses. She kept her own lust, pride, envy, greed, vanity, everything aside, and made sure that she is able to serve her husband with great devotion and attention. And she was able to immensely please her husband because in such an obliging way she performed so much service with great respect, because she was treating her husband practically as good as God. And she was also expecting from her husband, because she knew that her husband is not an ordinary person. She was expecting from her husband also great blessings. But as she continued to serve him in this way, oftentimes she had to neglect taking care of her own bodily needs. And as a result, the Bhagavatam says that she became very emaciated. She was not taking care of her health. She lost weight. She became thin. She became dried up. In fact, her hair became matted. Her body was covered with dirt because of her observance of various penances and other religious observances. And Karta Muni, he was noticing this, and when he saw how wonderfully she was serving him and being the Sahadharmacharini, the wife in the Vedic scriptures is also called as Sahadharmacharini, which means she who is giving company to the husband and supporting him in the execution of his religious duties. Sahadharmacharini. And the beauty of this is the scriptures say that if the husband is executing religious duties perfectly and the wife is simply supporting him properly, beautifully, in a chaste way, then whatever spiritual duties or spiritual merits are earned by the husband, the wife automatically gets half of them without even directly executing them, simply by supporting her husband. That is the formula. And the same formula is true even for the disciples when they serve the Guru, or for that matter, anywhere. So Kardam Muni, when he saw how wonderfully she was serving, he was very, very pleased. But at the same time, seeing her condition, actually, Kardam Muni was also feeling very sad. Oh, this princess, this Devahuti is a princess. And she's staying in this simple environment in so much hardship, but she's not complaining at all. So he started glorifying her. He said, "Oh, princess, oh, daughter of Swayambhu Manu, I'm so pleased. Your devotion is so excellent and your service has been so excellent." Actually, every living entity, they are so careful of their own body. So usually when there is some hardship, first thing we'll think is, why should I trouble myself? Forget the other person. Let him do and manage his things on his own. Why should I trouble myself? For every living entity, his own body is very important. But Kardam Muni is telling Devahuti, you have neglected your own body to serve me. I have performed so many austerities. I have achieved so much spiritual perfection through my austerity, through my meditation, through my devotion to the Lord. You have not directly performed all these observances, but because you have served me so nicely, today I want to offer the benefit or the fruit of all these penances the ecstatic experiences of this knowledge, of this meditation to all of you, all of this to you. And now I'm giving to you this vision so that you can understand the glory and the experience of all these activities. So Kardamuni actually gives her that experience. So even though she did not execute this, she practically got the fruit of all these activities by the blessings of Kardamuni. And Kardamuni continues and he says, ultimately, the objective of all these religious observances is to attain Krishna consciousness. And that is why I'm giving this topmost gift to you. Because at the end of the day, what is the use of all these material achievements? All the material achievements, you are the daughter of the greatest king in the universe. But you know, within a moment, everything that has been attained in this world will be lost. The only thing which is truly worth having is spiritual realization, devotion to the Lord. And you have been so faithfully serving your husband, myself, and that is why I am granting you all these realizations, all these gifts, which are actually very, very difficult to attain by other people, irrespective of their being very materially aristocratic. It's very difficult to attain, especially for proud people. It's very difficult to attain. So when Devahuti heard this, she became very happy. She said, wow, this is so wonderful. I served my husband, and simply by serving him, I got the fruits of all his penances. So she became very, very satisfied, and her face was beaming with happiness. At the same time, as she was speaking to her husband, she was feeling a bit bashful. In a choked voice, which was full of humility, because she was always very, very humble and modest in front of her husband. So she considered her husband as so great. So with great humility and love, she started addressing Kardamuni and telling him that, oh my dear husband, you are actually so great. You're the best of the Brahmins. You have achieved all these mystic perfections. In fact, you have transcended the material energy, Mahamaya. You are not under the material energy. You're actually under the Lord's divine energy, Yogamaya, His transcendental nature. You are so great. But I just want to remind you of one thing. Do you remember when you agreed to marry me? You had also promised that you will give me children. But now you're so busy with your austerities, you're so busy with your spiritual practices, and you're so absorbed in transcendence that you have no time to get attracted to me. And because of that, I'm unable to have any children. So I want to remind you of your promise that you had promised me children. And for a chaste wife, what can be a greater blessing than to have children from her husband who is a very, very great soul. So very humbly, I am requesting you. It is my strong desire that I should also be a mother. I will feel so fulfilled when I become a mother. It is my great desire. So please fulfill that desire, and whatever arrangements need to be made as per the scriptures to create the right environment for that, please do that. Why she's saying like that? Because obviously, first of all, she's in a matted hair, her body is dirty, she's emaciated. She also knows that in the current condition that she is in, she herself is not going to look very attractive for her husband. Her husband is anyway already detached and not attracted to anything in the material world. And this makes it even worse. And she also says that also, we do not have any house also here. We are just staying in the forest. So for this purpose also, please arrange a suitable house for us so that this can be accomplished. So Kardam Muni understood, yeah, and he agreed, yes, this was my promise, and yes, it is the right time. So Kardam Muni, of course, he did not have to, call some travel agent to book for a honeymoon package, which island I can go, which flight I can book. He was so advanced in his spiritual perfection, in his yogic perfection. He had all the 8 mystic yogic siddhis at his disposal. Anima, Lagima, Prapti. Prapti means practically whatever you want, you desire, it happens. Prapti Siddhi. Sorry, Kama Vashayita Siddhi. That is Kama Vashayita Siddhi. Whatever you want, practically immediately happens. Prapti means you can get whatever you want. So using his mystic power, when she said we should have a nice house, I was thinking, why just a house? Let's, let's let's arrange everything in style. Because he was so pleased with the wonderful service that his wife, that he now wanted to oblige her and satisfy her in the best way possible. So he thought, I must arrange everything for her in the best possible way. So just by his yogic power, instantly Kardam Muni created a huge palace, a mansion, but not one which was on the ground, but a flying mansion, floating in the air, levitating. And wherever the mind would desire, it was autopilot. You don't even have to program it. Just desire, I want to go here. The mansion will fly there. Mind controlled. Instantly produced. It is said that that particular palace, 7 stories tall. 7 stories. Very amazing. It was very, very beautiful. Bedecked with all kinds of jewels. And many verses are given describing this particular palace. Very, very wonderful. Full of precious stones, having all kinds of furnitures, multiple rooms, canopies, walls decorated with beautiful paintings and sculptures and beautiful tapestries hanging all over, pearls and jewels and flags and festoons, flowers, everything so beautiful. Beautiful beds and couches and fans and seats. It was a huge, like a private villa. And it was very, very attractive. Better than the best possible hotel which is possible in this material world. And not only was it so beautiful, but it was full of beautiful birds like swans and pigeons. And also there were beautiful figurines of swans and pigeons. Actually, the figurines of the swans were so beautiful that the real swans would think that the figurines are actually real swans. So it was so beautiful. And the whole palace was, had all the arrangements. It had an outer yard, an inner yard. It had a pleasure ground. It had a place to rest, a living room, beautiful bedroom. It was also wonderful that Kardam Muni himself, when he saw what he has created, he himself felt, oh wow, this is so good. This is so wonderful. This is so amazing. When Devahuti saw it, she was, wow. This is wonderful. But at the same time, she suddenly became sad. So Kardam Muni looked at Devahuti and was wondering why Devahuti is sad. But because he was so advanced, he could understand the heart of Devahuti. And understanding her heart, he started speaking to her because he knew exactly what the problem was. And he understood that the problem Devahuti was facing is this is such an opulent palace. Sometimes, you have to go to a wonderful big party, but you don't have any good clothes to wear. Yeah. So how you will feel? Yeah. oh, I have an invitation to such a big event I want to go, but I don't have proper makeup. I don't have proper clothes, proper jewelry. I will feel very out of place if I go there, wearing what I have. So Devahuti was actually feeling, that I am so emaciated. I am not having any good clothes and not well decorated. How is this going to work out? So Kardamuni, understanding this, he actually told his wife, Devahuti, told her, you see this Bindu Sarovar here, this lake, which is part of the Saraswati river. Please go into this Bindu Sarovar, which is sanctified with the teardrops of the Lord. Go and bathe there. And then you come on the plain. Devahuti didn't quite know what to expect, but she just obeyed whatever her husband told. As soon as she went into this particular lake, the Bindu Sarovar, suddenly she saw that there was a huge house which was created there. And on that house, in that lake, were 1,000 celestial Gandharva girls who all came to her with folded hands and said, O Queen Devahuti, we are all your maid servants. Tell us what we can do for you. We are your servants. Please instruct us. And obviously, Devahuti, all she wanted was she wanted to be made clean and pleasant and suitable and dressed suitably for the occasion. So instantly, all these 1,000 girls got to the task of bathing Devahuti like a queen, with perfumed oils and ointments, and having given her a beautiful, clean bath, they gave her wonderful, gorgeous dresses. They decorated her with exquisite ornaments, jewels. And after that, because she was so emaciated, they also gave her nice foods, nourishing foods to eat. And it is said by the yogic power and the arrangement, she instantly regained her energy, her body, her luster, her beauty came back practically instantly. So, in this way, fully decorated with bangles, with anklets of gold, beautiful waist belt, practically all the kinds of jewelry that one can imagine. She was looking so beautiful that it is said her beauty could defeat the beauty of lotus buds. So she was looking extraordinarily beautiful. And then she felt satisfied. Devhuti said, yes, now I am ready to go on this, so to say, honeymoon. Because all this while, it was only austerity. It wasn't quite living together as a husband and wife. She was practically serving all through this time her husband, while her husband was busy with his spiritual duties. So when Kardamuni saw how Devahuti had regained her original beauty and how she was now shining as a princess and dressed so beautifully, he was very happy. And his heart also became full of fondness for her. And then he took her on to the aerial mansion, and by his desire, the aerial mansion started roaming all about the universe. It is said that mansion was like, like in this world, we sit on a cruise ship, right? The cruise ship goes from one port and goes to another port. This cruise ship is like a huge mansion, right, on the sea. This was something like that, but it was, of course, a private cruise. A private cruise of a private mansion which was flying, not on the water. It was going through different planetary systems in the best picnic spots, the best of the gardens. It went to Mount Meru. It went to different kinds of gardens there, like the Vaishrambhaka, Surasana, Nandana gardens, the Pushpa Bhadraka, Chaitra Rathya. It went to the Manas Sarovar Lake. So all the topmost beautiful places in the universe, he was traveling. And of course, along with Devahuti, they were not alone. These 1,000 maid servants were there all the time, there to serve and assist in whatever way to make their holiday very pleasant. In that way, for a long time, Kardama Muni and Devahuti were sporting and enjoying this, their association, each other's company, with the best of foods, with the best of facilities, with the best of service at their disposal, and going to the best possible locations in the universe. So I think this is probably the best holiday ever in the history of creation, probably. I can't think of any other reference to any other holiday. So if anybody has the idea of the topmost honeymoon in the universe, this is the topmost honeymoon in the universe, as far as I can see. Very extraordinary. And it was indeed amazing that anybody could actually achieve this kind of sporting and leisure. But the Bhagavatam says that for those who are actually great devotees of the Lord, by the grace of the Lord, practically everything is possible. There's nothing impossible for the great devotees of the Lord, especially those who are surrendered to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because those lotus feet themselves are the source of the Ganga river. So nothing is impossible. Very easily, those attainments which are very difficult to attain for others can be attained by the devotees of the Lord, by the causeless mercy of the Lord. So in this way, Kardamuni practically showed the entire globe of the universe, and it's all his arrangement. He went to all the wonderful places in the universe where there were amazing things. And finally, after a long holiday, probably I don't know how many years, this was not a 7-day honeymoon and back to job. Not that kind. It was years and years. There's a reference in terms of how long they, but I enjoyed for many years, it is said. So it was not a holiday for a few days. It was a honeymoon for a few years. Who has budget for honeymoon for a few years? Nobody has budget. This was the topmost honeymoon which went on for years, and that's the glory of the yogic power. It is not depending on ordinary external material circumstances. So finally, after being thoroughly satisfied and having been enjoyed a wonderful relationship together for so many years, having a good time, finally they came back to the hermitage. So when it came back to the hermitage, now it was time for Kardamuni. So first part of the thing, he had satisfied her that she wanted his association and they wanted to live as husband and wife. They were living in very austere conditions earlier in an ashram-like life. So he gave her for many years that experience of the topmost possible celestial happiness of living together with all kinds of possible facilities. And now finally when they came back, he decided that he must fulfill the last promise that he had given to her. And what was that promise? That he will give her children. So it is said that at that point in time, Kardam Muni actually expanded himself into 9 forms. Because he was a yogi, he expanded himself into 9 Kardama Munis. And it is said that through these 9 forms of Kardama Muni, Devahuti gave birth to 9 daughters. And each of these daughters, which was born, and it was not that it took 9 months, because these are not ordinary living entities. It is said on the same day, instantly, a daughter was born on the same day. 9 female children were born. And each and every child was so beautiful and charming in every limb. And each of this child was fragrant like a lotus flower. And Devahuti was so happy and satisfied that finally, all the desires that I wanted a wonderful romantic life with my husband, which he fulfilled with the best honeymoon possible. I wanted children. He has given me 9 most beautiful daughters. So he has fulfilled all the desires of my heart. But now the last part of Kardam Muni's promise was about to be fulfilled. And what was that? He had told Devahuti and Devahuti's parents that as soon as I give children to Devahuti, my Grahastha life comes to an end. I will take sannyas and dedicated myself fully to spiritual cultivation. So Devahuti could sense the impending situation, and as the husband was getting ready to depart, externally she was smiling because she didn't want to bid farewell to him in an unpleasant way, but internally she was very agitated and distressed. It is said as she was standing, she was with her toenail of her feet, she was scratching the ground. Her head was bent low, and in a very soft yet charming way, with great difficulty suppressing her tears, she started speaking to Kardama Muni. Said, yes, O Kardama Muni, I know you have fulfilled all your promises that you gave to me. But I just request one more thing from you. Because I am surrendered to you, it is not proper that you go away, then I am left alone, because I am only with daughters. If I am only with daughters, and the daughters will get married because that is their destiny, then I will be left alone. You have to also give me fearlessness. That is also your duty. You have to give me abhaya. So even though you have fulfilled your duty in one sense, actually you haven't fulfilled your duty fully. So who's going to take care of me? A girl is protected by her parents when she is young. Once she is married, she is protected by her husband. And in her later years, if the husband is not around, she is protected by her sons. But I do not have any sons. I only have daughters, 9 of them, and they are going to be soon married to the 9 sages, and I'll be left alone. So she was very smart. She knew how to get more than what the offer had. So she says that I understand, actually, oh my dear husband, by your association, now I can understand that even though I was wanting a wonderful romantic life with you and all these things, and of course you have fulfilled all of that, but I realize now, by your association and by your blessings, that actually all that I was waiting for, all that I was hankering for and wanting, is actually so fickle. It is actually so ordinary. Actually, I realize now that we were simply wasting our time. Because at the end of the day, what all this sense pleasure and all these material things mean? All this while I was busy in sense enjoyment, but I neglected to cultivate my devotion to the Lord. You are actually fully transcendental. You are fully devoted. You came down from the transcendental platform just to fulfill your promise and as a service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead that you associated with me. And it is so clear that you did it like that because as soon as you fulfilled your vow, you were not attached for 1 second. Instantly, you knew what was the next step to be done and you are ready to go. You are so detached. You are never affected by material energy. You are so transcendental. But I am so foolish. I got so attracted by material nature. But by your association and by serving you, this realization has dawned upon me that actually I was wasting my life. So much time I have wasted. I was with you, I could have learned so many spiritual things from you. I could have developed my devotion to the Lord. But rather than that, I was just looking for some happiness of family life. So even though I loved you, I remained attached to sense enjoyment. But attachment to a great soul never goes in vain. Definitely, attachment in this material world is the cause of fear and suffering. But scriptures say very clearly, oh great husband of mine, they say very clearly that the same attachment, when it is directed towards a great soul, even unknowingly, becomes the cause of liberation. This is a very important statement. It says attachment in this world, for example, a husband is attached to his wife, or a wife to the husband, the children to the parents, parents to the children. All these are matters of material attachment. But if somehow the object of one's attachment happens to be a great devotee, like in this case, Devahuti, she's playing the role of a materially attached woman, but she's saying, I got attached to you, my husband, and you are so spiritually advanced. So that attachment to a great soul, even without consciously being aware or thinking that the person is a great soul. Of course, in this case, she was aware, but even if one is not, it is said that attachment to a great devotee actually greatly purifies one person and elevates them very forcefully. That is why scriptures say that one is considered greatly fortunate if somehow or the other he has developed attachment to a devotee. Because by serving and pleasing a devotee, one can make very easily great spiritual advancement. Yasya prasadat bhagavad prasado yasya prasadan nagati kutopi dhyayan stuvam tasya yashastri sandhyam vande guroshi charanaravinda. By pleasing whom one pleases the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when one pleases the great devotee, the spiritual master or other great devotees, one automatically pleases the Supreme Lord. In fact, scriptures say that whoever is dear to a great devotee of the Lord automatically becomes dear to the Supreme Lord himself. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at one time when he was speaking to Srivas Thakur and Advaitacharya on two different occasions actually, Lord Chaitanya was saying, what to speak of you and your immediate family members, even the servants of your house, even the dog in your house is extremely dear to me because he is connected to you. So even the dog in the house of a pure devotee is extremely dear to the Lord. So here Devahuti is saying, somehow I have been fortunate to be your wife and connected to you and attached to you. So I am sure this attachment will give me some great fruit. Even though I have been so materially attached, I am sure it will give me some great fruit. Because that is the nature of attachment to great souls. It always gives great spiritual result. Because at the end of the day, if I don't achieve devotion to the Supreme Lord, what is the use? Any work in this world, she says, which doesn't elevate one in religious life, And that religious life or that performance of ritualistic performances which doesn't elevate one to the level of detachment and renunciation, and that detachment and renunciation which doesn't ultimately lead one to surrender in pure devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is actually waste, is useless. And a person who lives a life like that is said to be like a dead man, even though he is breathing. It's useless. One's work must lead to progress in dharma, and the dharma progress must lead to renunciation, detachment. And that renunciation from the material world must ultimately culminate in transcendental attachment to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the ultimate result. So please, my dear husband, all this while I have been cheated by the illusory energy, the Maya energy of the Lord. You are always situated in Yog Maya, but I have been situated in Mahamaya. I went around sporting with you everywhere, enjoying. You were actually detached. You were doing it as a seva to the Lord. You were never attached. I got attached. I got cheated because of my attachment. But now I understand how it was all futile. And now I know that somehow, because I was attached to you, somehow that attachment must give me some wonderful fruit. So you must please bless me in such a way that this abhaya is granted. So indirectly, in her prayer, as he is about to leave, she effectively says two things. What does she essentially ask? She says, give me the perfect knowledge of Krishna consciousness so that I can transcend material energy. And also she's saying, I also want a son. Because who will take care of me later when you go away to the forest? So she wants two more special gifts from her husband. And she's expecting those blessings because of her attachment and seva that she has done for a great soul like Kardama Muni. So that brings us to the end of this particular chapter. Of course, in the next chapter, Kardama Muni responds to this request. And we'll discuss that in detail, but essentially Kardama Muni obliges her and blesses her in a very, very wonderful way. In fact, he blesses her in such a way that he not only just gives her a son, but the son that is born to her is directly an incarnation of the Supreme Lord himself, Lord Kapila. And through the agency of Lord Kapila, all the spiritual knowledge that Devahuti is seeking is given by her son to her, not by Kardama Muni. And that is the very, very special blessing. So what did Devahuti achieve after all her devotional service? She got the blessing of getting Krishna as her son, as well as her guru. That is the perfection, because that is what she was seeking. Even though initially, being a simple, she was always very pure and chaste, but being a very simple lady, she was very attracted to Kardama, but of course, in a very dutiful way, in a chaste manner. And she served him very nicely. She was always cognizant because of her proper spiritual training and her background that ultimately I have to come to the point of pure devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And because she never lost focus of that, and because she always served a pure devotee like Kardama Muni without any offenses and without any ulterior motives, all blessings were given to her. So Prabhupada says that is the very simple process of attaining spiritual perfection. If one is fortunate enough to get the opportunity to serve the pure devotees of the Lord without duplicity, and one can serve with one's full heart, then one is considered very, very fortunate. In fact, there is no greater fortune for conditioned souls like us. See, many of us, how many of us can actually do the kind of austerities and penances and spiritual practices like what Kardama Muni did? Would Devahuti have performed? No. But Devahuti still achieved the same end result by being a humble servant of Kardama Muni. That's why the scriptures say it may be very difficult for most of us to become great through one's own austerity, through one's own knowledge, through one's own purity, through one's own devotion. It may be a slow and long process. But if one is fortunate enough to get the opportunity to become a servant or even a servant of the servant of such pure devotees, then that is considered one of the greatest possible blessings, because that opens the door for spiritual perfection in the easiest possible way. This is what the Bhagavatam says. Dwaram muktehe, it opens. Prahlad Maharaj, that is a beautiful shlok in the Bhagavad where he says that by Mahat Seva, by serving the great souls, one opens the door to liberation. So there are many, many beautiful points and lessons in this particular chapter. There are so many smaller and finer points about relationship between husband and wife, so many aspects of psychological learnings. I have not gone through it because we don't have time. Please read through the chapter, translation, purports very carefully. There are many beautiful lessons. The key point again being that men have a particular typical psychological nature. Ladies have a particular psychological nature. If both the husband and wife act according to their nature, which is actually meant to supplement each other, then together they can actually live very peacefully. So all those things are discussed very wonderfully. Yeah. So with that, I will I will end the talk here. And I'll open the floor to any questions or comments. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Gopinath Prabhu, nice to see you. Dandavats to you.
Hare Krishna, Gaurchandra Prabhu.
Dandavats, so nice.
It's so inspiring to hear you preaching with so much conviction. Oh my God. Malab, actually, you are sitting on the background. Wo jo image hai, it's a technology, but I think you're really sitting there.
You are the master of glorification.
I'm not. You ask Suyash. I'm a fault finder number 1. Yeah.
You are very humble.
No, I wish I was humble. I would have had the certificate of humility from the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. But Gaurchandra, I really amazing point. Actually, just relating, because of you, we are reading scriptures, and because of you, we are in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela. So we're just reading yesterday in that chapter 10th or 11th of Madhya Leela, Beda Kirtan pastime chapter. In that, there is a beautiful point Prabhupada makes, just exactly what you said, that her attachment to the devotee, to Kardama Muni, there, the story, I'm sure you know more than me, but I'm just, for my own benefit.
Please share. Yeah.
Pratap Rudra Maharaj wanted to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he tried all the options. He had 2 options. He had Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and he had Ramananda Rai. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, when he approached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he told, this king wants to meet, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very upset. He said, if you speak like this anymore, I will leave Jagannath Puri and go. And then he got scared. He said, hey, Baba, ye to lafda ho gaya. So then when Ramananda Rai came, when Ramananda Rai approached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he told Chaitanya Mahaprabhu so many things, beautiful things that king had done. Like when Ramananda Rai asked him to retire from governorship, the king said, take full pension, full salary, bindas jao, seva karo, Chaitanya re charane. He says, go and serve the Lord. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, acha, ye wohi king hai? Oh, okay. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's heart softened. And in that purport, Prabhupada writes, amazing point. Prabhupada uses that, I'm sure you heard this Prabhupada's lecture in some time. Prabhupada says, love me, if you love me, love my dog. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then Prabhupada says, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu liked that attitude of the king because he says, oh, he likes Ramananda Rai and Ramananda Rai is so close to me. So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was like, okay, I mean, kuch karte hai, you know, like let's do some kind of arrangement or something. And then of course we are yet to see now. We will read Monday, Tuesday, we'll read the Gundicha Marjan, then next day Rath Yatra. Then that Jagannath Vallabh Garden and all that pastime when King will come singing the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And so thank you so much, bro. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank
No,
you.
very true, very true. Yeah, there are actually many such episodes, and actually that is one of the greatest lessons for us. Actually, that is why I always try to keep that in mind. That of course Prabhupada has said it many times, and even His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj mentions many times. Do not try to be a great devotee. Just try to be the servant of the great devotees, because the standard of greatness that some of these souls have is so great. Can we emulate Kardama Muni? Can we emulate the associates of Lord Chaitanya, or the direct associates of Lord Krishna or Lord Chaitanya? Uh, I think if we are honest to ourselves, most of us know it will take us, hundreds, if not less, lifetimes. But the simple process, the
Our
scriptures say
hope,
is
our hope
very
is to be
clear.
attached to you. My hope and Suvesh's hope that we will be attached to Gaur Chandra Prabhu and he will think about us कि भाई इनका क्या करना है देखते किधर setting कर
Please
देते हैं.
don't give any wrong ideas to all these very simple and humble devotees.
No, they understand what is going on. Yeah. They know you very well more than me.
Hari, you are very wonderful. Gopinath Prabhu is a very wonderful, glorious devotee. One day when he's not around, I will give a class on him. Then
No,
you
I've
will know
written a
his
book
glory.
about myself. I'll send it to you. You can inaugurate that book here.
No, I don't need the book. I know by heart because I've personally participated in those pastimes.
my own glories by my own glories by myself. Signed by myself. Book released by myself. लेके जाओ भाई. Free में.
Hari. By the way, Gopinath Prabhu has already been discussing, like we are discussing Bhagavad, he has been discussing Bhagavatam with another group, and now he's on Chaitanya Charitamrita. So they have been doing also a similar wonderful activity of getting together and discussing. So that is what we want. We want more and more devotees to discuss Hari Katha as much as possible, and this is greatly purifying. Like what we were discussing at the end of the day, so many attempts are made counteract COVID. But at the end of the day, the most powerful means of counteracting any distress is the congregational glorification, hearing and chanting of the name, form, pastimes, and qualities of the Lord and His devotees. So rest assured. And of course, we would like to take this opportunity to also pray for the welfare of all the devotees. In fact, some who are in this class today are also COVID infected, but I will not take their names. But we are praying for them also that they all recover and stay safe. So let us pray for everybody, that everybody remains safe, and especially devotees of the Lord. It's very important that they be around longer so that they can wonderfully serve and help so many others to become fortunate. So thank you, Gopinath Prabhu. Please keep giving us your association whenever it is possible to inspire us. Any other comments, questions?
Actually, you didn't compare this when we were reading this part of Bhagavatam, na? I
Yeah.
compared it with the spa. Like spa. Everyone likes to go to spa. Ladies especially, they go to a spa. Like first class arrangements and this that. But you cannot compare any spa. Even 7-star hotel, even the richest of the people on this planet cannot have that spa. 1,000 ladies कहाँ से आएगा भाई? They can't afford it.
And it is celestial and full of gold and jewels. That's why it is the
Actually,
like what I said.
in this part also Prabhupada explains that one part, the lapis lazuli kya hota hai. We
lapis
have no
lazuli is
idea.
a kind of
Yeah, I have
gemstone.
not seen. I had never heard this also. I didn't even know ye kya hai bhai. Then Prabhupada, of course, thank you, bro. Thank you again.
Yeah, it's such amazing. So yeah, so by even for material enjoyment, sometimes we think that simply through material technological advancement and having money we can have a high standard of material enjoyment. But even to achieve a high standard of material enjoyment, uh, through the process of serving the Lord and through the process of the yogic powers, the kind of opulence and enjoyment which was possible for Kardam Muni to manifest, it is inconceivable. It is practically unimaginable. So it's very amazing. So nothing is impossible, like the Bhagavatam says, for those who are attached to the lotus feet of the Lord. So the devotee of the Lord is not bereft of material benefits. And the beauty is when the devotee is fully attached and taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, even though he may be in materially opulent situations, he never forgets the Lord. You see, Devahuti also, even after going through the whole episode, because she was always in the association of a saintly devotee like Kardam Muni, she never actually lost track of what is the ultimate goal of life. So there is no problem as long as one is following the path of dharma, even in the process of kama. If one is in the association of devotees and if one is interacting with matter and the material world in a befitting way within the principles of dharma, within the principles of religion, and one is not forgetful or neglectful of one's spiritual practices and the ultimate goal of life, then one will remain protected. Then in that way, it is very much possible to be materially also satisfied and also ultimately achieve the supreme goal of life. Any other point? Comments? Okay. So wonderful. So I think you're all dreaming of this beautiful palace. So there are some nice pictures of the palace in some of the beautiful books. But please remember one thing: no matter how glorious, beautiful these descriptions of all these palaces are, it is not this beauty of the topmost thing in the material world is not even a tiny speck of the beauty and glory of the opulence in the Vaikuntha planets. And that is not even a tiny speck of the glory of the supreme abode of Golok Vrindavan. So if you want to achieve the topmost levels of the highest possible levels of experience, then you're already on the best path, which is the path of attaining the lotus feet of Shri Radha and Krishna, Golok Vrindavan. So that will afford one the greatest possible transcendental experience, which includes within it all kinds of beautiful transcendental variegatedness, which will fully satisfy the heart and all the transcendental senses for all eternity. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I just want to mention one thing. Most likely, probably not this week, but from the following week, we will resume our Wednesday Bhagavad Gita class. Yeah. So not coming Wednesday, but probably the Wednesday after that. Okay. So thank you all. So I'm hoping that as we are doing the summary study of each chapter, please read through. The purpose of this summary is to give an appetizer so that the actual meal you will come, which means we'll actually read, and then it will be more relishable. And then you'll be able to absorb and assimilate so much more. So please do that. Okay. Thank you. Hare Krishna.